Hello folks, welcome to another video, another 40k rant, or it's more of a hobby rant this time I guess. And it is about mental health, it is about male mental health for the first time in quite a while. Do you remember back on the channel, back in the old days about a year or two ago, when nearly a lot of our videos were focusing on building people up through mental health and getting them started and getting them out there, right? Well, today I thought it's the new year, I'll take a break from, discussing the hobby in general, even though there will be a lot of hobby in this, and I'll discuss how the hobby can help you in mental health, and discuss what you guys can do to help yourselves. It is a little bit of a short podcast of just me, chilling here, sitting down with my tea, and discussing where I think we're going wrong, and where I think we can do better in the hobby. The title of this video is, of course, why 40k hobby people, or Warhammer people, need to be dads, need to be fathers, right? Now that might be as straightforward as you think. I'm not saying you need to go out there and get yourself a partner. I'm not saying you need to go out there and get yourself a wife immediately and start having kids, although that would be great. It is a fulfilling thing. I think in terms of a family unit, dude, don't be... It can be very empowering and you can be very self-assured in going around with different women all of the time if you can do that, right? I get that. I get how that is. I get how that feels. But it doesn't lead to long-term success. It doesn't lead to long-term fulfillment, okay? Get that out your system, but when it's out your system, recognize it and try and settle down. I do believe it is the optimal point of a man, right? You are there to build a family unit and protect that family unit. That is what you are here for, in my opinion. And it leads to the most fulfilling life that you can have, in my opinion. So whilst that is the case, this video isn't expressly about getting yourself a family. No, it's actually about Warhammer 40k people, or Warhammer people, or wargaming people in general, being dads to the people around them. We've sort of lost this phenomenon of the older hobby gentleman taking people under his wing, being able to be the linchpin and the pillar of his community in 40k, or in Warhammer Age of Sigmar, or in fantasy battles, or Napoleonic Wars, or whatever you're playing, right? All of you who are my age, in your mid-30s, or maybe even just your 30s or late 20s, will remember one of these dudes. Will remember one of these men who were older than you, who knew more than you about the game, who had families of their own, and most of them that I've come across were either teachers or they had really good jobs, right? Like, they were doctors, teachers, lawyers, something like that. And they were involved in the hobby, and they were extremely patient and extremely funny, and your mum probably had the hots for them, right? I came across 2 or 3 dudes like that when I was a kid, right? And one of them worked for Games Workshop, and the other one was a regular at the Games Workshop who was also a lawyer. And they would give you their time, they would absolutely explain the rules to you, and if you were having any troubles, they would be able to see through that immediately. They'd be like, oh, are you okay? Right? Are you alright, man? Like, what's going on? And you'd be able to open up to them and actually tell them what was going on, right? This is a highly respected position in the wargaming community. And it's something that I've seen in hobby shops, model shops, whatever, that's kind of disappearing. It's kind of going away. I've not seen one of these guys for a long time. If you are one of these men, and I know a lot of them do watch the channel, put in the comment section down below where you've gone. Why have you stopped going to general hobby stores? Why aren't you there anymore? Is it a generational thing? Are we just moving past these guys now, and we're getting to people in my generation, and maybe even younger who are getting older, who just don't have the chops to be that guy? I don't know. My main New Year's resolution this year in the hobby isn't to do with actually being a hobbyist, isn't to do with actually building armies, although I do have several projects on the go right now that I need to get on with. It's actually, in terms of the hobby, is being one of these guys. It's being a guy who's I'm going to use the word successful. Now, that does not mean with women. That does not mean professionally. It just means, as a man, right, I'm quite happy in myself. I'm quite happy with my life that I'm building. And I'm very confident in myself. And I'm very, shall we say, comfortable in my own skin right now, right? I'm okay. I'm doing well. As a hobbyist, as a dude, you need to remember, if you feel that way, truly be honest with yourself. A lot of us are into this doomer culture these days that I don't really agree with. It's why I don't really support men going their own way, right? I think that's giving up, right? I think it's being a pussy. Don't be a pussy, right? Again, life's hard, don't run away. Simple as, right? Put your big boy pants on and go to work. Get a job, right? Do something that you can do to alleviate your situation and to make your life better. Sitting in the hot water and complaining it is hot does not go well with me at all. And that is what men going their own way is. It's women don't want to touch my pee-pee, so I'm going to go and cry in this corner. Like, okay, no, sorry, no. Again, and other men will say, well, no, it's about having your own money for yourself and going your own way and not letting them distract you and do this and do that. No, mate, no, stop coping. Stop coping. It's not about that. You're doing that anyway. Why do you need to give it a name? I'm going my own way. Okay. When was the last time you got laid? 2 years ago. So you've been going your own way for 2 years. You're not just deciding that now. Okay? There are ways to go about sorting your life out and getting laid beyond going your own way and crying in the corner. It's not fixing the problem, is my point, right? You are exacerbating the problem and making it worse. And eventually what we're doing is we are creating the most dangerous form of human on this planet. A lost, neglected, listless young man, right? There's nothing more dangerous. I'm being serious. There's nothing more dangerous than a lost, neglected, listless young man with no purpose. Don't go your own way. Be a man. Put your pants on, right? Stop watching, illicit things online. Stop eating carbohydrates. Get to the gym. Go for a run. Start eating well. Start applying for jobs. Get yourself on a training course. Go to university. Go to college. Do something to alleviate your situation. Sitting in the water and complaining it is hot does not wash with me. And this is somebody, and I'm talking as somebody who's been through depression, who's been through listlessness, who's been through all of the things you're currently going through. I've had dry spells too, man, right? Yeah? I've been through all of those things. It doesn't help. It does not help stewing in it. The minute I decided to take action is the minute my life started to get better. I had a few blowbacks, yeah. I had a few pushbacks from life, because life is life. But with age comes a lot of what I would say wisdom, right? There's a reason why intelligence and wisdom are not the same stat in D&D, right? There's a very good reason for that. Yeah, okay, game mechanics, but also they're not the same thing. You can be as intelligent. I know a lot of autistically intelligent people, or extremely just normal intelligent people, who don't have any wisdom. Right? Wisdom comes from life experience. Wisdom comes from getting kicked in the balls so hard that you want to die by life. And carrying on, and learning, and coming back. And then years later, you look back and go, actually, yeah, I survived that. If I didn't get anything else out of that, I survived it. And I know I can survive it again now. So, this is what I mean by we need more dads in the hobby. We need more people in hobby stores. We need more people in games, in tournaments, in hobby groups, who are able to look at the other young men around them, or men around them, and take them with them. If you already have success, if you're already doing well, give other young men the opportunity to do well too. Even if all you can do is lend an ear. Even if all you can do is say, hey, are you alright, man? Like, what's going on over there? You know, are you okay? Do you want to play a game? Do you want to do this? Do you want to do that? Right? Be that hobby guy. Be the dad. Be the central nexus of your place. And if you're not that yet, then do that. Start becoming that. Start leading the men around you. Start making sure you're holding out a hand. I've had countless stories of people who have found work through their hobby store, through their hobby group. Because simply they've been out of work, they've been very depressed, and a rich guy who's been there, or a guy who's doing quite well for himself, got his own company, or he knows somebody who could make use of you, reaches out and says, hey man, are you looking for work? Like, I've got... Oh, you're a labourer? Right? I've got several mates who are labourers, and they always find work in hobby stores. You know, if they're out of work, they're down on their luck, and some guy goes, oh, you're talking about being... You're a labourer, you don't have a job? You got no job? You know, here's my friend's phone number. Or here's, network, guys. Look after each other. Spread the wealth. If you can give somebody a job, or you know somebody who might be interested in employing that person, step forwards, give them some help, right? Okay. In terms of your own social worth as well, this is something that comes up in a lot of emails, and this is why I'm doing this video today, is rather than me replying to every single email. Okay, I need to speak about the channel for a bit. I'm quite lucky to be able to speak to channels that are much bigger than mine, because they watch the channel, they like the content, which is nice, thank you very much, and we have a little chat, right? Some of them will email me, some of them will call me on Discord, and some of them will even turn up to our live streams, right, and have a little chat in the comment section. And the one thing that always seems to come up is they're always shocked by the amount of mail I get. They're always like, well, you know, these guys have 100,000, 200,000, a million close to subscribers, and they say, I get like 10 to 15 emails a week. You get like 10 to 15 emails a day from lost people, from people who are just like, dude, I need help, right? And what they don't realize is, despite my channel being a small channel, the engagement is extremely high. Like, most of you guys stick around, which is a big honor for me, by the way, so thank you. Most of you guys stick around, and you want to talk, you want to figure things out, you want to get there, right? And you know, for such a small channel, we really do punch above our weight. That number, that subscriber number, doesn't actually mean a lot. I've noticed that, right? Mainly because larger YouTubers have told me and said, listen, you know, when you're from like 10,000 subscribers all the way up to 250,000 subscribers, you're all kind of earning the same thing. Do you know what I mean? Because that's just how YouTube works, right? So yeah, you know, there's not really a monetary difference. And in terms of engagement, you can have a 250,000 subscriber channel and have less engagement than what I get on mine, because you guys are dedicated and you watch the Hobby Nightmares and it helps. And that lights such a fire under me. I love it, right? But in doing so, that's why I'm doing this video, is because rather than me replying to so many of these emails, I always miss one or two, and it really bugs me. I'm really sorry if you're one of those people that have been missed, have fallen through the cracks. But I get so many that it's just unfeasible. I can't get through them all. So, the amount of lost young men in this hobby. Now, it is a cliche. I know a lot of people will say, oh yeah, Warhammer dudes, you know, that's just how they are, right? They're on their own, and this or that. They're nerds. No. I don't think you realize how many of them there are, right? I would say, as somebody who's, again, I say it ad nauseum, right? I'm sure you're sick of it by now. I've worked in the hobby, right? For Games Workshop and for independent stores. So I've had a big exposure to people in the hobby over several years. I get that I always call it the vertical slice, right? If you work in a hobby store, you see more weirdos because you are getting that vertical slice of the entire hobby come into your store, right? It doesn't mean that there are loads of weirdos doing 40k, it just means you're seeing everybody who does 40k in your local area. That's what I'm saying, right? But in doing so, and then starting this channel, I will tell you now, I think around 60 to 70% of the men in this hobby are the ones I'm talking to right now. They are lost, they are lonely, right? They are incomplete people. They are people who are, especially if they get towards their 30s, they are people who are venturing out for purpose, is what they're doing, right? There is a very good reason why these young men are doing this hobby. Do you know why? Because it gives you a purpose. You have something to work on. You have skills at which you can get better. Quite easily too, quite frankly, right? If you have any sort of, you know, hand-eye coordination, you can be a very good Warhammer painter, or hobby painter in general. It's not difficult, right? A few tutorials online will make you a far better painter than most people in the 90s could ever manage, because, you know, they didn't have access to things like that. We're in a good place in the hobby for growing your skills and stuff. But these young men, they look for purpose, they look for control, they look to get better at something. The same energy that forces you to get up off your ass and go to the gym is the same energy that forces you to pick up your paintbrushes and want to get better at painting. It's the same energy, quite frankly, that makes you want to play games like Dark Souls, where you get better or you die, or you fail, right? And it's unfair. But the game punishes you and forces you to go there. I think men, these days, are starved for that feeling. We go chasing it. We absolutely go chasing it. Which is why, you know, I look at games like that as a use them as a momentary distraction, but don't be one of these guys who literally creates their entire life around whether they're good at this kind of game or not, right? It's the same reason why you shouldn't treat Warhammer as your entire modus operandi for life. It shouldn't be, oh, I'm good at Warhammer, so that means I have value as a person. We see it in Hobby Nightmares all the time. A guy will lose a game in a tournament, and it'll ruin his entire day or his entire life, because that's all he has. That's the issue, right? You're not bringing anything of value in the rest of your life, and so you are tied up in wanting to be good at this game, in wanting to be good at painting, and all of these different kinds of things, because there's nothing else going on. This is it for you. This is not something that is relegated to 40k and wargaming in general either. It's in gaming, it's in tabletop role-playing, it's in any sort of geekdom that you can find. There are a lot of people in those subcultures that are obsessed, absolutely obsessed, with being good at that thing. Because it is the one thing that they have. The one thing that they can say, I'm good at this. And the minute somebody comes along, especially if that person is a normie, who is doing quite well in life, and is better at that hobby than them, dude, their heads explode. And I'll be honest with you, my empathy is all there with them. It really is. I'm not sugarcoating it. I have so much empathy for these people. Because can you imagine forming your entire self-worth around a game, or a video game, or a war game, or being good at painting, and then all of a sudden, a guy who's already... Because all you have in life, man, is this hobby, right? Let's just say you're a war gamer. You're really good at painting Tyranids, right? You're really awesome at painting Tyranids, and you're a really good Tyranid player. You don't really get laid, you don't have very many friends, you either hate your job or you don't have a job, right? You're kind of broke, and you use your welfare checks to buy models every now and again, and that's your life, right? Okay, cool. Now imagine if a guy who is not even amazing looking, but is a normal, good-looking guy, comes into the store with a better Tyranid army than you. He's got a girlfriend who comes into the store with him every now and again. He's got a job, right? And he beats you in a game with Tyranids, and it's easy for him to beat you. Can you imagine how shitty you would feel? Right? That is the model insecurity of wargamers. Because most people who fit into this demographic are like that. Like, they are... I've used an extreme example, right? They're not all, like, jobless people living in their mother's basements. Absolutely not, right? But most of them put a lot of self-worth, a lot of their own self-worth into the hobby. Do you know, I know this because I've done it in the past. I've done it in the past. Now, I couldn't give a monkey's left bollock if I win a game of 40k. I have other things going on in life, right? I'm there to have fun. I'm there to throw dice. I'm there to just, you know, get out there and have some fun and meet some friends. But I think it's a really good barometer of how you're doing in life if you can go to a 40k event, or a store, or whatever, and lose every single game at that event and not care. You're doing well in life. You are. Because this hobby takes a while to do. It's a big time sink, man. Like, you know. But if you can come into this hobby and you don't care whether you win or lose, or you're just having fun and you're getting the most out of it because you're in the hobby and you're having fun. One, you're winning. You're doing the hobby correctly, right? You are a hobby champion. But number two, you have other things going on in life. You are happy because you have other things going on in life and things are going well for you. You don't need the hobby to hold your hand. You don't need the hobby to be the scaffolding around your house. This is one of my favourite metaphors, and a few of you may not have heard this before on the channel. But your life is a house, okay? And it's a big old house. And the hobby and your interests and the things that you find comfort in are the scaffolding that goes around the house just to hold it in place, just to make sure it doesn't wobble too much, just to make sure the top floor doesn't collapse into the second floor, things like that, right? You can live in that house, you can have fun in that house, but you need to constantly make sure that you're renovating, that you're adding to its foundations, you're strengthening the house. And as you do that, the scaffolding doesn't need to be as strong to hold the house up. Yeah? That's the hobby. The hobby doesn't need to be your entire world to hold the house up. And there are people on different kind of parts of that spectrum. There are people with very secure houses that are very strong and hardly need the scaffolding to be there at all. Those are the guys who are getting the most out of the hobby, right? Because they don't care whether they win or lose. They're perfectly happy with their own painting skills, but they always want to learn more. Those guys are winning, right? Because they've got a stable house, a stable life that is there and doesn't need the hobby to prop it up. You have guys who are in the middle of the road, so they're constantly building, they're constantly strengthening their house, they're on that journey to having that really strong house to live in, but they still need that scaffolding on the outside to pick up the slack every once in a while, just to, stop the roof from caving in, or to stop the stairs from collapsing, something like that, right? Every now and again, they need the hobby. But then there's the other type of guy whose house is crumbling, and he's sitting in the house that's crumbling, refusing to get help, and he's using the scaffolding to basically stop the house from utterly collapsing. And then there's the other guy, the final guy, who doesn't even have a house. His house is the scaffolding. I'm sure you've met guys like this before, right? And maybe this video will give you some sort of eye-opening experience on who these people are, These are the subjects of hobby nightmares. The bottom two guys there. These are almost exclusively, when we have a Warhammer, a gaming type of hobby nightmare, these are those. These are those. When you have people who are way too into the lore and want to argue with everybody all the time about it, or about how their faction is the best, almost exclusively, these are those people. They are living in scaffolding. Or they're living in a house that needs all of the scaffolding just to stay up and not collapse onto the ground. This is why I say we need more fathers in the hobby. We don't need actual fathers, although fathers are always cool, right? No. Especially their jokes. Their jokes are amazing. But no. We need older men, or even if they're not older, men who are mentally older, who are, able to go with the flow, who are able to lead. We need those to still be in this hobby, because I'm seeing an alarming lack of them, and it is not good. That is not good at all. We absolutely do need more of them in the hobby. And if you think you can be one of those people, I implore you to get out there at your local hobby shop, at your local store, put your arm around somebody and say, hey man, do you want to, if they're lonely or struggling, hey man, do you want to play a game? Most of the time, just like approaching a woman, most of the time, they'll say yes. Most of the time. They'll be like, yeah, sure, right? I've been around people who have, unalived themselves eventually because they never got that tap on the shoulder. I keep bringing up Dave at the Games Workshop store, Dark Eldar guy, right? I never saw it. I never saw the signs. Even when he came into Sainsbury's and tried to get me to buy his Land Raider off of him, and then when I couldn't, because one, I couldn't afford it, but because I was working in the Games Workshop, so I was broke, he then just offered to give it to me. He said, oh, you can just have it. Only later did I realise that was him giving away stuff. He'd already made his decision. Right? Because he never got the arm around the shoulder. He never got the person to be that guy with him. It could have been me. But I was just too busy. Right? That sounds horrible, but it is what it's a mistake I made. I was obsessed with getting better at my job, right? With no one customer taking up more than 5 minutes of my time. I was obsessed with my training and becoming a Games Workshop manager that I just didn't see the signs. And I believe if you work for Games Workshop, that's part of your job, man. Part of your job is safeguarding your local hobby community. It really is. Even if you manage a normal store, right? That's part of your job. It's looking out for these people who might slip through the cracks and extending a hand to them. It might be a freebie here or there. I started doing it when I was an actual manager. I started giving away white dwarfs. Giving away a paintbrush here. A bottle of paint there. Right? Didn't matter to me. You know. On my last day at Games Workshop, when we were leaving, we had like several damaged boxes that were going to be thrown in the bin of Dark Imperium. I just gave them away. I'm throwing them in the bin. Like, why would I throw them in the bin? They could do some good. They could do some good to people who need them. So that to the people who I knew were vulnerable, the people who I knew were a bit down, the people who I knew needed a bit of a kick, I gave them out. I took them back in the back area, and I said, put this in your bag. It's damaged. I can't use it. I can't sell it. I've got to put it in the bin. I've been told. You know, all of these, they came in one box, and it was battered. This big box. I called Games Workshop. What do I do with them? Put them in the bin. Can't sell them. No. 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 I cherry picked out the people who I thought could use them the most and could use a pick me up. You know, an arm around the shoulder most, and I gave them away. Right. I always remember like walking out the store for the last time. And was actually with a girl who used to come into the store. Not like that. Like, we were just friends. She was generally, you know, a bit... You could tell she was... You know when you can tell someone's sad behind the eyes? You can just tell that they're quite sad. Like, not as in, you know, you don't want to be around them. I mean, like, physically, you know, no, I am very down, you know. I'm incomplete. There's something going on. So, she was getting into Tyranids. And there were several things that we had in the back that were literally ripped boxes, or like there was one box I got delivered to me that was just wet, and it had gone through all of the boxes in there, so I literally couldn't. It was all warped and I couldn't sell them. One of which was one of the battle forces from Christmas. So I left around I think it was around about February. Yeah. Anyway, it was around Christmas that we'd had this thing. So my last Christmas at the company. And I had this battle force. It was warped. Like the edges were frayed, and some of the paint had started to come off. It was horrible. But it's full of Tyranids, and I said, "There you go." You know, this girl cried, right, welled up in tears, and I was like, "No, please don't do that." So please don't do that. Like, I'm really awkward about things like that. Please don't do that. You know, she gave me a hug, and then. I remember walking outside my store really heavy-hearted. I'd done the banking, done all that, set up the store for the next person to come in, whoever was taking over my shifts, you know, I was finishing. I closed the store, locked it up, and I looked at her disappear up the road in the rain, hugging this box, you know. I think she's a game developer now. She was studying game design at the time. She was hugging this box going up the road. And that was the last good feeling that I had. And it's the first good feeling I'd had in a few weeks at that point working at Games Workshop when I walked away and I was finished. And I was like, okay, well, my last act as a Games Workshop manager was to do something like that, right? Dudes, if you're working in the hobby, that's the kind of thing you should be doing. Don't give away all your stock for free. But if you can be kind, be kind. If you can get on that train at the end of the day and think, you know what, I made somebody's life a bit better today. That's what you want to do. The best days I have on YouTube are those days. They're the days where I literally get an email or I get a comment that says, "Hey man, like, you know, you really did help me, you know, and I was going to do this and now I'm not going to because I look forward to Hobby Nightmares." That's a hell of a pressure to put on a dude, but I'll accept it. It's fine. It means I'll never stop doing this, which is good, you know. But yeah, be that person. That's why, for me, we need more dads in 40k. And Warhammer Age of Sigmar, and Warhammer Fantasy Battles, and Spearhead, and Kill Team, and Napoleonic Wars, and Battletech, and everything you can think of under the sun. Anything to do with wargaming. We need more dads. So put your arm around your fellow bros, alright? And make sure they're doing okay. Alright. I'll stop getting soppy now. I'll be back with some more Hobby Nightmares tomorrow. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'll speak to you pretty soon. Alright? Okay. Bye now.